Welcome to K-State Now with Kansas State University Interim President Richard Myers. I'm Richard Baker. We just got some news here from Topeka that we may be looking at the possibility of another 5% cut in money for Kansas State. What does that mean?
So I think the way I understand that is it's a budget drill, if you will, and it's what would you do if you were to take another 5% cut from the state grant to our university. So there's no certainty around that. It's a budget, as we used to call it, depending on a budget drill that they go through frequently. We've done these before. I guess it's been a few years since we've done one, but so we'll go through the exercise and try to determine how we would accommodate that kind of cut. But that would be extremely, extremely painful given the recent cut we just went through.
So what kind of plans are you making for this?
Well, you have little control over state revenues, which then lead to a state budget. So what you got to work on are those things that you do control. So some of the plans revolve around enrollment. Last year, our enrollment was down. This year it looks like this is still early. We're several weeks away from the firm count, but we think we'll be flat in freshman enrollment, which is better than last year. Maybe down overall because we'll lose some in graduate school and so forth. But so that's something we have some control over, and so we are working plans to try to what can we do to increase enrollment, and we can also look at the cost side of the equation. We're pretty efficient, I think, at least that's my view and at the time I've been here. But there's always things you can do to become more cost effective. So we got to work both sides of that equation, get more revenue, work the cost side, and then hope the tax revenues come in better than they're projected.
How did the hierarchy here at K-State respond when they heard that?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty. We've been through several cuts here in the last couple of years. So they respond in an appropriate way. They're nervous. I mean, they've been building programs. They're trying to take care of faculty and support staff and our other workers on campus and so forth. Everybody gets with the uncertainty of not knowing about the budget, the final budget. We're in the middle of we're not in the middle. We're starting execution of 2017 budget. We've got it. We think it's an appropriate budget. If we get a cut to it, that's the uncertainty they're reacting to, and so people get nervous, and I don't blame them. And part of our job in the administration is, of course, work with Topeka and others to try to, the best we can, keep that uncertainty from coming to the top.
Is there the possibility that some of those in Topeka don't exactly understand how the money works here? For example, I think if we're making announcements, hopefully on a fairly regular basis, that we have gotten, say, a $1 million grant or a $2 million grant or that sort of thing. Is there the possibility that they see that as money, that we have access to fill some of these holes they're putting in our budget?
There probably are some that look at it that way. I can tell you the Board of Regents understand our budgeting process extremely well, so they would not be one of those groups in Topeka that would know. The Board of Regents have been very supportive of higher education, of course, and then of our budget and so forth. So they would understand. I'm sure there's some legislators that maybe are not as familiar with how a university budget works and the role that philanthropy plays in all that. Philanthropy is needed for all sorts of reasons: scholarships, faculty chairs, capital construction, all these sorts of things. But it'll never be a substitute for there's just not enough of it to be a substitute for a state grant.
Speaking of buildings here on campus, where do we stand with the new buildings, some of which are supposed to go online with the start of school, are they not?
So, yes, and it's good news. We got the occupancy certificate for Weefald Hall, our new residence hall, last Friday, and people started moving in that weekend, essentially the next day and Sunday. So we've got that. The outside will be, they finished the inside. The outside landscaping and several features around the building, it's going to take some time. Probably, I mean, we're looking at dedication probably next spring. But the inside is beautiful, wonderful. and students are in there, and they're going to be more moving in here this coming weekend. The business building is they're occupied. The professors and the staff are in there. There's the big lecture hall is not quite complete yet. That'll be another couple of weeks. Landscaping, some of the outside features, but it's ready for school. So those two primary buildings are ready for school right now. So that's good news, I think, for everybody involved.
Where do we stand with the engineering building?
Well, the engineering phase 4 is done. The new phase over there for architecture, planning, and design has just come out of the ground, 5 or 6 months ago, so people can go by and see the steel in the air. That's a 2017 calendar year 2017 finish by fall of 2017. It's coming along wonderfully, and it's really needed as well. I don't know if people know Seton Hall. Seton Hall's one of our older buildings on campus. It's been modified many times, but to have a architecture, planning, and design school in, and they're all those programs are top 10 or better, many top 5. To have them in these old facilities is just not appropriate. The legislature thought so too. So this new building will be a real boon to their program.
The student union, how close is it to being finalized?
Well, they've kept it open through all this. So I was just in there today checking it out because I said, okay, how close are they? I can't put this in a percentage because I haven't seen the percentage, but the bottom floor will be essentially complete this weekend. They're finishing putting the flooring around a big wildcat that's in the floor on the bottom, on the lower level. A lot of it will be open. There are things to finish. So I think they're looking at kind of mid-fall that most of it will be open. There's still going to be some things they'll want to do in there. A facelift on Forum Hall, the little theater up on the second level. They're going to do some stuff in there as well. But those are things they can do without disrupting the rest of the flow. So it's all coming along. It's all on schedule or ahead of schedule. I think the union's actually ahead of schedule. A lot of things that we thought would be late fall looks like September now. So we feel pretty good about it. And the best thing is when you walk into any of these facilities, the people that work there, the professors, the staff, the students, in case of the student unions or others that use it, I mean, it'll be the kind of place that inspires them to do better because they're going to be very professional buildings and interiors.
And the chilled water facility, where does that stand?
Well, I hope it stands. I have trouble getting to my house on campus, and so because they're laying all the all the pipe for the new chill plant. So I think that's getting very close to completion. There's still some, as I look at it, and you look at these holes, there's still some holes to fill, but I think they've done the major work is done. So I think in the next 30 days, I think we'll see another sort of transformation on campus where some of the roads that were closed will now be open. The energy efficiency that comes with the new chill plant will start to reap the benefits of that. So it's all moving along well. It all sort of conspired to, in kind of one period, and now we'll have a period where we're not going to have so much construction on campus.
With that new business building, you're going to have to think about keeping your blinds pulled, I think.
Already thought about it, and yes, they have. Yes, it's true because they have an outdoor patio, I think, on the third level that sort of overlooks the house, and it's a place they might, they could be up there in the evening. It's a place that might be for socials or meetings or whatever. So I can wave goodnight to them. They can wave goodnight to me. But it's just so wonderful to have that building. I think they took out one tree. When people drive by there, you'll see all the trees have been preserved, and they took out one and have planted many more in its place. So it was done on purpose to save those trees. So I think the setting, this modern building, these trees is perfect for the land grant mission, and we've got a great business curriculum here, and that new building is going to attract a lot of talent.
The last time we did this, we were talking about different things you were looking at, and one of them was personnel, and we did not get around to elaborating on that. Tell me, what is it about personnel right now that you're looking at? Are there problems? What was that about?
No, I wouldn't say they're problems. They're just some things that we need to decide which way we want to go. So the first one is under the Fair Labor Standards Act. They've raised the minimum salary to be exempt, if you have a certain job description, to be exempt from overtime. And so we're looking at we have a lot of positions that are below that minimum right now. And so the question for our departments and units is, do they want to raise the salary of those folks to, if they have the other positions of the job descriptions, mainly management and that sort of thing, can we raise them high enough where overtime is not a factor, or do you want to continue to pay overtime? How do you want to manage that? In a constrained budget area, that becomes an important exercise and not an easy exercise to figure out how you're going to manage that. And then we've for a couple of years started under Kirk Schultz is to look at an outside firm come in and we weren't the first university to do this in the state of Kansas, to look at are we paying our folks appropriately? This is not faculty, but it's everybody else. And are we paying them around the 50th percentile of the market, what the market would pay? And we have, and we now have a pretty good feel for that. And we have to roll that out at some point. And it'll cause some, some people, I think few, but some people will be concerned. They'll say, gee, you're saying I'm overpaid. I don't, or my job description isn't right. We've worked this, I think, in great detail with all the various units and agencies, and so there should be no surprises. But the people haven't seen, we call it total rewards, have not seen that. We hope to roll that out and let people then see where their pay falls according to the market. And then we have some folks that are way below that we have to bump up. And the question is, when do you do that? Do you wait till, the plan was always to do it next July 1st. Do we wait till then? Do we do it earlier? So those are some of the decisions that we're trying to make inside this constrained budget environment. And we'll make them, but that's what I was referring to. No, our human capital function is much stronger today than it's been for a long time by everybody that I talk to. So we're getting the talent. It's just, are we paying appropriately? And we think we are. The study showed that. And we've got to let people know that they're being paid appropriately. And those that are below the 25th percentile of market, we got to bump them up. It's just not right to have them at that level.
It's been a long time since there's been a general pay raise here. If we have to bump those up, where would we get the money?
Exactly. So, well, there have been some savings that that CFO has identified that could be used for that, and then it's just going to have to go into the budget. But the one thing you can't do, in my opinion, is continue to pay people below the 25th percentile of market. It's one thing to have somebody at the 50th and say they need a raise, but if somebody's below the 25th percentile, that's just not right. I mean, so we have to. So we're going to have to find sources, and it's pretty well laid in, starting in 2017. What we have to do, have to decide is, do we want to do it early? Do we want to do it in December? In other words, or make the decision and do it for the last half of this particular fiscal year. So but you bring up a good point, and it's trying to balance all that, along with the question you asked earlier. The uncertainty comes from an uncertain revenue stream, tax revenue stream for the state of Kansas. Are we susceptible to another cut, along with every other university in the state of Kansas? And that just makes it really tough to manage. But we've got a great team, great people that try to work. The broad issue for Kansas State is, how do we stay true to our land grant mission, and how do we provide talent, educated talent to the workforce for the state, the region, the country.
We're supposed to have a permanent president in position by the 1st of next year. Mm-hmm. What if that doesn't happen for some reason?
So my official line is that if that doesn't happen, I'd have to. I promised I'd stay through the first of the year, but obviously, if they come up with an individual that just couldn't be here in January or what, I could extend a little bit, and I've made people aware of that. I love I love this interim position. I didn't know how it was going to be. I loved being on campus. I love being with students. I love being with faculty. It's just a great experience. It's inspiring to be. I mean, I spoke to the women's volleyball team this morning. What a sharp group of young ladies. And if you look at their academics, I don't know how many academic All-Americans we had in last year's volleyball team, but it was a handful. I mean, these are smart ladies, dedicated to Kansas State, dedicated to their sport. They have a chance of having a huge year in Division I sports in the Big 12. And if you don't walk away from that being inspired by their dedication, their professionalism, the perseverance, and the sweat they put into the university, I don't know what would inspire you. But so it's just, this is fun. And I am the interim. I'm just, I think, way too old to kind of keep pressing this, but I'd be willing to serve until until the person is here. So
This has been K-State Now with interim president of Kansas State University, Richard Myers. I'm Richard Baker.